guys, how's it going? Hope y'all are doing well. Miss seeing you guys Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. So for this week, instead of doing a game and coming up with a game and all the details about that, I figured I could come up with something that could engage everyone and everyone can see how everyone else is doing through a video in the coming weeks. My idea is to do a rap battle.
Bad wolf, 1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Basically, all you have to do is come up with a 30-second to minute rap about a story in the Bible or a verse in the Bible. You can include your own words. You don't have to just recite a verse into a rap.
God is doing a new thing. You know he's doing it. Who's doing it? God is doing a new thing.
You don't have to worry about finding a beat. Once you send the video to myself or Steve through WhatsApp, Steve, you can put my number right there, I can come up with a beat that will go along with your rap. Now this isn't mandatory, you don't have to do this, it's optional. I just thought it would be a fun way to keep everyone busy if they're bored out of their minds on a Friday night. Brianna.
Oh, so sorry.
So yeah, if you want, you can go ahead and do that. I'll come up with one in the next few days and send it to Steve to upload, and y'all could see how it could work.
I float like a balloon, way above the moon, with a ribbon tail that was really swell, like a colorful raccoon.
Again, it's not mandatory. You can if you want, but I just thought it would be a fun way to engage everyone. Again, I hope you all doing well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great week.
You know he's doing it. Yo, who's doing it? God is doing a new thing. My God is doing a brand new thing. Well, since time began, he remains the same. Faithful, I ran into his word and silent. I go to store and I stirred. I look down through the ages, and you will find God doesn't change, but he knows the time. From harp, piano, to song to rap, you know. God's with us, so it cannot lack us. So.
Hey friends, I'm in a heavily wooded area, as you can see behind me, way off the grid. And I was looking at some of the parables. Parables are always my favorite part of scripture. I love the fact that Jesus took these enormous eternal truths and he fit them into stories. And he did that because his audience was not just the educated, not just people with religious backgrounds, it was everybody. And he knew that he could take these big, giant truths and put them in terms that people would understand. And that appeals to me because I would have been one of those people that's like, I don't get it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe I kind of get it. So one that I've gotten before and that we've been talking, or that I've been studying for a while, is one called the parable of the shrewd manager. And what I like about this one, some versions say the parable of the dishonest manager. You can make a point, you can make a case for that. But I like to use the term shrewd because this guy really was shrewd. So Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. Think like personal assistant, probably a little bit bigger than that, someone that oversees the estate.
Good evening, gentlemen. Meeting in 60 seconds, and I've got big news.
Just this rich man was so rich that he wasn't even doing his own business, and he's got this guy. But he's accused of wasting his possessions. Okay, so he's not doing a great job. So he called him in, verse 2, and asked him, what is this that I hear about you? Give an account to your manager, because you cannot be my manager any longer.
You're fired.
The manager says to himself, what shall I do now? Okay, he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't deny it. He just kind of owns it, and he's like, oh, what am I going to do? And you guys are too young probably to have lost a job, but I've lost a job before, a couple times. And that's the first thing you think of is, oh my gosh, what's next? What am I going to do? The bills come every month. And this guy, obviously, as he's thinking through this, he goes, my master's going to take away my job, and I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. So he's in this weird spot, right? He's kind of puny. Or maybe he's just a normal build, and he hasn't worked outside in so long. He's like, I don't even have the strength to do that anymore. Maybe he's an older guy. I don't know. But he says he's ashamed to beg. And yeah, that makes total sense to me. If this guy was the number 2 guy in a rich man's house, he was pretty darn important, right? And he probably was part of the big parties, and he was around a lot of the people. And now all of a sudden, not only is he afraid of losing income, but if he's going to go beg, first of all, it's a terrible life. Second of all, it's very shameful. And I can guarantee you, he doesn't want to walk face to face with the guys who used to know him in that old position. I watched just this terrible movie on Amazon Prime, and I know that the Braven brothers, at least Ryan, has seen it. And it's a story of this guy that loses his high-end marketing job, and he ends up working at this burger place, and he's dressed like a penguin. And in this scene, his rival, this guy that he technically treated like a jerk, but it was a jerk back to him, walks in and just gets this look on his face like, oh, this is perfect. And you just see the look on the guy who, the star of the movie, who's dressed like a penguin, he just has this look of dread.
Jack Baker?
Hey, Wesley.
And I think that this servant, though unaware of fast food at the time, is looking at begging and just being like, I really don't want to do that. So then he has an idea. In 4, he goes, I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people welcome me into their houses. Okay, so he got a plan right away. And he starts enacting that plan. All of a sudden, he's more motivated than he was when he had the job. He goes, so he called in each one of his master's debtors. Okay, people that owed the master something. And he asked the first, how much do you owe my master? And the master says 800 gallons of olive oil. Okay, this is a huge amount of olive oil. I don't know if you've seen 800 gallons of anything, but especially back in the day, and as critical as olive oil was to the cooking and just in general back in first century Palestine, this was a lot of money right here. So the manager quickly tells him, he goes, all right, take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 400. Okay, so he more than cuts it in half. And of course, the debtor's like, oh, this is cool. He doesn't know that manager's getting ready to get fired. He just knows that he's about to receive a deep discount on his debt. That'll happen with credit cards too.
I'm in debt up to my eyeballs.
If you haven't paid for a long time, all of a sudden they're like, you owe us $1,000. Okay, how about $300? And you're like, well, I could probably do $300. Well, that's what this guy's doing right here, right? And so he says, take your bill, sit down quickly, make it to 400. Then he asked the second one, how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat. He replied, it's tons, it's crazy.
Tonight, the war on wheat.
And he told him, take your bill and make it 800. Not as deep a discount, but certainly a discount. So the master, he finds out about this. And you think, oh man, he's going to tear him limb from limb, right? The parables are all about people getting torn limb from limb.
I'm a professional. Do you hear me? Do you understand me?
But interesting what he says. The master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Okay, so Jesus is now bringing it home. And he's saying, this master commended this guy. He's like, wow, I wasn't getting any payment from these guys. And you went through and you got tons of payment, or at least, something. Maybe it was half, maybe it was 3/4, but you got something. You liquidated that. And of course, the shrewd manager wasn't doing it because he wanted to settle the accounts. He's doing it because he wants these guys to like him, maybe even give him a job when he lands on the unemployment line, which it sounds like he's still going to end up on the unemployment line, right? So what he's doing is he's taking his master's wealth, not his wealth, his master's wealth, and he is using that to further his own cause. And so what Jesus is saying is, people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Now, the same principle applies. Anything we have does not belong to us. It's been given to us by God himself. Okay? So in that sense, we're just like the shrewd manager. It's our master's money that we're using. And what he's saying here, what Jesus is telling the people, is that, you know what? This stuff that you have, this money, these talents, your ability to do certain things, to build relationships, all the wealth that you have, whether it's monetary or talent or whatever, use that to build relationships with people. And I will use that those relationships, even though Jesus doesn't have to use us at all, God doesn't need to use us, I will use those relationships to bring people to me. Use what you've got here and gain favor, not so that you can end up in their houses like this other guy, but so that so they can be in the eternal dwellings. That's the amazing thing about this. It's an opportunity to obey God, to partner in a way with Christ when we have no business doing that, and using wealth that we have that's not even ours. And so in 10, he goes, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of their own? No servant can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
That's my money.
And for me, that is such an incredible picture of where we stand when it comes to God as our master, the money that he has given us, the talents he has given us, the possessions he has given us, the opportunity to show great hospitality by having people over or serving in different ways. He's given us all of that. And here he is challenging the people to say, look, you need to look at every opportunity you have here on earth to build the kingdom. That's why we're here. And I would just encourage you guys, as I've been encouraged myself, to go and look for every opportunity you can find, whether it's right now in this weirdness where we're all staying home or when it's over and we're going out. Keep that mindset of being able to look at the relationships, look at the people around you, and recognize that there's a real opportunity to use your master's wealth, things God has given you, in order to reach them. So there you go. Next week, we're going to hop on a Zoom call so that we can all hear from you guys, see how you guys are doing. But in the meantime, I thought we'd switch it up and every other week do a YouTube in the weeks in between. Also, the camp packets are going to be sent out. So be checking the mail for that. We're going to talk a little bit about the fundraiser in a video. That will be sent after I'm sure that you guys have gotten your packets. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Ryan for the dad joke to close us.
This one's for you, Steve. What's the difference between a box of Cheerios and the Cleveland Browns? Only one belongs in a bowl.
That the Saints have now lost each of the last 3 seasons. Their season has come to an end on the final play. That the Saints have now lost. That the Saints have now lost. That the Saints have now lost.
Hey girl, you like to play football? 'Cause you're a catch.
Our lives, Lord, we're doing a new thing through Jesus Christ.